First impressions matter. When prospective customers and visitors come to your website, if they are not engaged right away, they're going to leave. And so, the first thing you need to do as you try to make your website ready for company is to audit your design. First, impressions matter. When a prospective customer comes to your website, if they are not wowed by what they find, they're going to leave. And so you need to start with a great visual impression. Let's take a look at some things you can do to improve your first impression. First off, we need to look at your website and how old is the design. If it's outdated, you're sending a signal to everyone who visits that you're not keeping current, that you're not keeping up with what's going on. And how long is too long? 2 years, people. If it's been more than 2 years since you've updated the visuals on your website, you're no longer delivering an experience that's comparable with what they're seeing everywhere else. As you're looking at your design, you need to remember that one of the biggest changes in recent years has been this shift to mobile. And so you need to create an experience that works on mobile. And so, first question, is your website responsive? Mobile adaptive is no longer acceptable. 7, 8 years ago, you could create a website that was full size and then shrink it down so it kind of fit in a mobile phone. This is no longer state of the art. We expect websites to display appropriately no matter what size our device is. And these days, a lot of designers are actually focusing on the mobile experience first and then the desktop. While these sites look very similar, there are a few things that are different. For example, we've lost the little graphic because it just takes up room on mobile and it prevents me from getting to the information that I need. So, what makes a web page really responsive? There's several things that you really want to focus on. The first is media queries. How many pictures and images are you pulling up, and are you pulling them up quickly? Do you have grids that change size? Those are the columns that get wider or narrower depending on what size device you're on, and do the pictures get larger and smaller? In many cases, you actually have a similar, but it is an alternative version for mobile. For example, this coach and consultant on her full-size website, she's got a picture of herself. But on mobile, as the text and gets bigger and it fills the screen, there's really no place for Julie's face. And so in the mobile version, we actually turn off this picture. And as you're thinking about your website and you're looking at, well, there's the full page version, there's the mobile version, don't forget about tablets, which are actually somewhere in between. And so you see, you've got a wide text along with the contact form. Here you have teeny text on top of a single column form. And here it's somewhere in between where the text sits on top of the form, but it's still a full size form. You need to be thinking about that for your website. And you want to think about vertical hierarchy. In the old days, when we were designing print, even before websites, we always thought about the left-hand side of the page. This is where the eye goes first, and then it goes across. And so you want to make sure that the things that are on that left side are the most important. And so when the site goes to mobile, you see here, you've got that same left column, and now the picture is underneath. It's nice, but it's not the most important information on the page. And so, in general, as you're creating a page, you want to think about this left to right and top to bottom and make sure that the most important things are on top and to the left. The next thing that you need to think about in your design is, what do you want people to do when they come? And it is balancing what they want versus what you want. For example, what do customers want to do? We asked this question of a restaurant that we were working with, and they actually had two restaurants. They had a dinner restaurant and then a cafe that was open all day. For the dinner restaurant, they said what customers really wanted was to make a reservation. So the phone number, and this became a button. Originally, they didn't have an online registration tool, but eventually we did get a button that allowed people to make a reservation. For dinner, that was the first thing that customers wanted to do, and that was the first thing they wanted people to do. Conversely, for their cafe, people weren't making reservations for lunch. And so instead of a reservation button, we focused on a menu button. Because when you're ready to go out to lunch, everybody's like, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to eat? Oh, what about this place? Well, do they have this and do they have that? And the menu is the most important thing. So let me show you some other examples of first action. Learn more. This is a company that does not sell their product online. Randall Beans makes beans in glass jars, and they're too heavy to ship. The purpose of their website is to get people excited about the product and excited about using the product. And the way to do that was to offer them recipes. And so that's why on their homepage, that first action is browse recipes, because that's the thing that drives sales. For other customers and other businesses, that first action is a let's chat. This is a personal injury attorney. And as we talked to him about his business, what he said was, if I can get someone on the phone, they're going to hire me. And so we had a little bit of information about who he was, his picture, but really the most important thing on his website was the let's chat. And I actually want him to make that button even a little bit bigger. For home service companies, very often the most important first action is schedule an appointment. That's why people are coming to your website. They want your phone number, they want to call you, they want to schedule an appointment. If that's not what they're looking for, you got other information further down the page. But the first thing, the thing that you really want people to know they can do and they should do, is what should be right up here. And this one is a buy now button. Denison Parking has garages all over the city. And while you may want to search for garages that are near you, you may want to find out about monthly parking, the vast majority of people who come to their website are looking for a parking spot now. And that's why that button is right at the top of the page. When you get beyond the first action, the second most important thing on the page is the navigation. It is what moves people to where they need to be. This is not a time to be clever or creative. It is a time to be as specific and direct as possible. One of the things that you don't want to do is overwhelm people with the navigation. This was a high school, and this happens a lot in nonprofits. This happens a lot in larger organizations. There's this creep where people say, well, we need this on the website and this on the website, and everything has to be in the navigation. No, I get here, and number one, I don't know where to look for anything, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed. A much better structure is to have a very simple navigation that allows me to look at, okay, who am I? An alumni, a prospective family, or a current family? And then when I click one of these, like prospective family, there's a second navigation that's relevant for me. Tuition assistance, plan a visit. Those are not things that alumni care about, and they're not things that current families are interested in. And so those people won't see that information. Instead, when they go to their page, they're going to find information that is relevant for them. Ways to improve your navigation. Number one, simplify. It's okay if someone has to click twice. That idea that they have to get to everything right from the main navigation is an outdated way of designing your website. Truly, most people are going to come to your website, and just like they do on Google, they're going to look for the little search bar and they're going to type in the information they're looking for. And so it's much more important that your information be organized and categorized than it is that it's listed in the nav. You want to limit your drop-down menus. They are terrible on mobile, and they're really not a great experience even on desktop. And you want to use more interior menus that are focused on particular topics that are relevant and of interest to people who are in those interior pages. And every page, every single page should have that logical next step. You should never let anybody get to the bottom of the page and not tell them what they do next, whether it's fill out a contact form, read more, watch a video, do something. Think of your website like a late night television commercial, and wait, there should always be more. Another design trend that actually we're really over this. It's the sidebar. We used to put information in the sidebar that was interesting, that we wanted people to see. The problem is that in a mobile world, what happens to the sidebar? It drops down to the bottom of the page. And so if this really is interesting, this is not the best way to present it. You're much better off streamlining your website and designing it for mobile. That doesn't mean you can't have two side-by-side columns, but that's different from a sidebar that is automatically just going to drop to the bottom of the page and is just there to fill space. Because on mobile, it disappears. And a little movement goes a long way. This is one of the things that clearly will separate a website that's more than a few years old from a more modern one. Little animations, little hover effects, small movement is what tells a visitor that this is a more updated website. And it also helps direct the user to their next step. Common animation, you're going to see a lot of hover animation or what's called micro animation and parallax. Hover animation is very simply when you roll over it, it moves just a little bit. You see this little micro animation that just kind of up a little bit to tell you, oh, I'm supposed to click that. Another way that hover animation is used, and I think this is really clever, is to uncover more information. So you get to this first page, and then when you hover over the graphic design, it will spin, and probably only spin once, but spin to reveal more information, and then you can learn more. We also see some, this is an example of micro animation. Again, small movements, and this is actually one of my favorite. This, unlike the things that I've shown you before, those can be the hover animation is one image and you're just changing the picture. Here you actually have a small animation loaded to your website. They're very engaging, they're very cute. This is something that's going to require a little bit more design, and you want to use it sparingly. If you overdo it, it's very distracting. And parallax, this is harder to demonstrate in a PowerPoint, but basically what you're doing is you freeze one part of your website, like the menu or a call to action, and then you slide the other part underneath it. And so the navigation stays in place. In this site, we made it a little transparent so you could still see Julie, and we brought up that next row. That subtle shift, that little parallax keeps the most relevant information on the screen. Now, if you're going to use animation, keep it simple. You're going to hear me say this a lot. You don't want to do every animation available. Pick one or two and stay with them. And the final thing on design is, does your page load quickly? This was a really staggering statistic, but 57% of people will leave if the site takes more than 3 seconds to load. And so you really want to make sure that your most relevant information is getting on the screen right away. You want to make sure that you have high quality hosting. So you're paying for a good hosting package that is fast. You want to optimize images, which means you're actually making them smaller. Don't load 300 dpi, 6,000 pixel, 4,000 or 6,000 pixel wide images. 72 dpi is fine, and really 1,000 pixels is about the max. You want to clean up your media library and get rid of images that you are no longer using. That's one of the things that starts to happen with an old website is you get bloat. You want to clean up your database, and this might be something that you work with your developer on, and get rid of old code that you used to use that you don't. Get rid of plugins. Just get rid of anything that you're not currently using. And this last technique is called a smart content load, and there's several different ways to do it. If you've got a long page, instead of waiting for the entire page to load, you can do pagination where you load a part of the page, and then if the user is interested, they'll click more to see more. You can have this infinite scroll where the first page appears, and then as they scroll, more appears and more appears, or a manual load more. Any of these techniques will increase the speed, and it will help Google see that the page is loading quickly. Okay, now's a good time for you to go and audit your design, and then we'll come back and talk about content later.